Oh, that is cold tea. Spill the hot tea. No. Spill the cold tea. It's less pleasant. Welcome to the first instalment of a series which is going to make loads of people angry, fingers crossed, called Nearly There, where I'm going to talk about films or series that like they're teetering on the edge of being really good, but then they slump and they become the worst things put on God's green earth. The first series I'm going to talk about is Netflix's new show, Sex Education, which has gotten a really big following and loads of people thinking it's really good, but don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. It's not good. It's the opposite of that. It's the opposite of good. Popularly known as bad. So, Sex Education, created by Laurie Nunn, and I'm having none of it. It's starring Asa Butterfield and Gillian Anderson and an assortment of other horrendously average actors. The story is that Otis, played by Asa Butterfield, lives with his mum, Gillian Anderson, who's a sex therapist. And one day, in a fateful encounter in the toilets, because haven't we all had one of those, he accidentally does some sex therapy on another student, and then Maeve, played by Emma Mackey, sees this and thinks that they can turn a profit from it by doing sex therapy with the students at their college. Sounds interesting, right? Wrong! The reason I'm lumping this in with stuff that could be really good but is actually terrible is because of the concept. I saw the trailer and thought it looked really interesting. Here is a series which talks about stuff which is normally full of lots of teen angst and talks about it in a really nice, positive way. So, naturally, I got really excited to watch the first episode, and I was still excited for the first kind of 5 minutes, and then everything changed when the Americanisms attacked. I'll send you a hat if you got the Avatar Last Airbender reference, which I'm pretty sure everyone did, so I'm going to need to get my hands on a lot of hats. I'm going to be talking about 3 main issues I have with this series, just to save time, because I have many more than 3. The first and most obvious issue with the series is the writing. Boy, have we got some corkers for bad writing here, lads. Firstly, the dialogue is really unrealistic, which would be fine if that was the tone they're going for, but it's very confused. Sometimes it feels like they're trying to give us a real, relatable teenage experience, and then others they throw in things that are clearly a 45-year-old sat at a laptop, like, this is what teens say.
This is a new frontier, my sexually repressed friend. We could be popular. Prepare for the best 2 years of our lives.
There's a few lines which are very cringy, and obviously that 45-year-old, with his glasses, being a teen. And there's this one line, I watched it and we genuinely had to pause it, and I had to sit there for a minute and mourn the practice that was once screenwriting that I saw crucified before me. And the line is...
What is your thing then?
Complex female characters?
Oh, it makes me want to take a shower and peel off all my skin. Along with the terrible, either embarrassing or unrealistic dialogue, we have got some very strange pacing and structuring. The show is supposed to be about a young boy doing a sex therapy clinic, and through that, him and his friends learn more about each other and learn more about themselves. But we see very little of either. Maeve and Otis's friendship seems to come out of nowhere. She's either bossing him around or having a genuine friendship, and it flicks between the two. We never see a growth from one to the other. We never know what kind of relationship they have, and I don't think the writers quite know either. We only see maybe 3 or 4 moments where Otis is good at doing the sex therapy, which would be fine if we saw him do it badly once and then he improves. But it keeps going back and forth. 1 minute he does really good, the next he's messing up. Why should we follow a character who's bad at doing what the series is about him doing? I understand that we need to see him do badly so he can improve, but we see that, and then it keeps happening. The show never really gains any forward momentum. It's always stepping back. It's always going back to things we've already seen. It never feels like it's really got any structure at all. Along with this, with the bad writing along that little lane, is the characters are all unlikable. Every single one. Otis, whenever we see him mess up or do something to hurt someone's feelings, we never feel like he's remorseful because he feels guilty. It's always that he's embarrassed, like, oh, I insulted someone by calling her a goat. Oh, how embarrassing, not, oh no, I've hurt someone's feelings by calling them a goat. That must have made them really sad. How are we meant to empathise with a character who has no empathy for people around him? Eric, who is Otis's best friend, is just stereotype city. They try and make him seem interesting, but he's basically every oppressed gay character in every single teen film, just with a slightly bigger hat. Jean, Otis's mother, I kind of find entertaining because she's always up to mischief. I always kind of am curious what she's going to do when her little mischievous Jean music comes on. And Maeve's character? Oh boy, I'm going to give her a whole other section. I'm going to talk about her later because the writing for her deserves its own little bit. My second issue with the series is the acting, which kind of ties into the writing, because I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. Let's face it, Asa Butterfield is just a budget version of Alex Lawther from End of the Fucking World. If he played this character, maybe he would be likeable. That's kind of how this whole cast feels. It feels like they got some really good actors who could maybe make the characters likeable. Then they all dropped out at the last minute, so they had to go with the B-Tech version, who could say the lines and not be that terrible. They're not awful, they say their lines, they make facial expressions when human beings technically should make facial expressions, and that's just how all these characters feel. The whole time I know they're just lines and actions written in a script. I never feel like I'm watching a living, breathing person. Now that we're talking about the acting, I'm going to go back to Maeve. Oh, golly gee, Maeve. Let's talk about her. She is pretentious, she is bland, she is boring, she thinks she has more substance than she actually does. She is horrendously average, she's so edgy. She is the physical embodiment of a black screen on Snapchat saying, "Had a bad day, don't talk to me." She's that as a person. Maeve Wiley is everything you don't want your character to be. She is not unique in the slightest. Oh, she reads Sylvia Plath. So did I for my A-level. You don't see me flicking people off because I'm more literaturally sound than they are. Oh, she's a feminist. Isn't every 17-year-old in southern England who's a bit socially aware by now? She doesn't like relationships because people always let her down. I will harken back to End of the Fucking World. Alyssa, she is a unique character because the writers went the whole hog. You don't need to tell us that she's different because right from the get-go, we know she is. If you need to convince us that your character's unique because she's read Jane Austen's less popular work, that means she's probably not unique at all. My third issue with the series is the biggest boy. Oh, he's a big boy. How bloody American it is. Oh my god. The Americanisms are out of control. At first, I thought that a comedy with kind of a John Hughesian-esque, kind of American-looking background would be interesting. But it's so Americanized, it doesn't feel English at all. It might as well be set in America. It makes no difference to the story, no difference to the characters, no difference to the culture that's portrayed. It completely sucks you out of it because you know, oh, an American wrote that line. Oh, an American would say that. It's distracting, it's badly done, and so painfully out of place. So if the show is this bad, then why has it gotten such good reviews and why has it gotten such a huge following? I have a theory. I think the reason this series has got so many people convinced it's good is because of its subject matter. It talks about these issues like teen sexuality, self-esteem, even PTSD with Otis's character. It talks about them all in a positive, healthy way, which is something that's so rarely seen. Viewers want it to be good so badly that they ignore stuff like bad writing and bad acting. I hate to be the person to break it to the people who think this show's good. It's not. Friends, I'm sorry. I dare you to try and find one unique thing about this show that isn't materialistic. Oh, a girl wears a suit. Cool. A boy wears makeup. Awesome. What can you tell me narratively or about characters that is even remotely unique? The only really genuinely unique things I can think of maybe in this series in terms of the story and in terms of the characters are three things. One, Jackson's character. Jackson's character confesses that he has stuff like OCD. He confesses that he's got really bad anxiety problems. That's something rarely seen with these characters, but again, you feel like it's only put in there so the writers could be like, look, he's not a stereotype, see? It doesn't feel genuine at all, and I don't know whether it's due to the writing or due to the acting, but there's something going on there that makes it not quite right. The second thing that I think is kind of genuinely interesting about the characters in the story is that Maeve begins falling for Otis, who's had a crush on her throughout the whole show. Otis falls for someone else, and not in the way that he's in denial about having feelings for Maeve, because that's often where that kind of story would go. He's genuinely found someone who he fits better with. Maeve is the one with the unreciprocated feelings and not Otis. That makes a really nice change from this narrative that we see quite often. The third thing that I find quite unique and quite interesting is after Eric has had his fallout with Otis and he's very, very isolated, he meets this man who's driving along and they have this moment like, oh, always be yourself, kid. And you think, oh, he's gonna go out, he's gonna live his dreams, a strong, independent man. You think he's gonna have his, I am what I am. And he does, eventually. But first, he goes back to his church. He goes to his church, which he was once really bitter and resentful towards, and he finds comfort and solace in his religion and in his community. It's that which gives him the strength to be himself. He was stood in the church, and he really, really got into it. That was a lovely moment, and the one time Eric was kind of almost not a stereotype. Everything else that you think is crazy or unique can be boiled down to materialistic, shallow, basic cliches just dressed up in a different English outfit. Sex education was nearly there, but it became American, cringy, and not in the purposeful way like Fresh Meat-esque. It was a strangely structured, badly written, badly acted, hideously average nightmare. And that is why it was so close yet so far. We were nearly there, sex education. Nearly there.